This is cream Anmitsu today, one of the most popular and I think favorite summer desserts. I will quickly introduce my favorite cook, and also just my favorite person in general. I think she is the most wonderful, one of the most wonderful person I know. And I get to see her in person too, because she lives in Massachusetts. But anyway, Deb Samuels leads the program, and she creates content and curriculum at Table for Two, which is a Japanese inspired food education program. They have a specific program called Wa-Shokuiku, Learn, Cook, and Eat Japanese. Deb is also a food writer and contributor to the food section of the Boston Globe, and has two wonderful cookbooks. I recommend that you either buy them yourself if you don't have it, or gift it, which I have been doing. And one of her two cookbooks is called My Japanese Table, and the other is called The Korean Table. And she has also curated and exhibited exhibitions such as the Obento and Built Space Japanese Boxed Lunch and Architecture, and Objects of Use and Beauty, Design and Craft in Japanese Culinary Tools at the Fuller Craft Museum, which was, I have to admit, phenomenal. And I've had the great opportunity to visit it in person because it was in Massachusetts. And so if you ever have a chance to visit one of her future exhibitions, or see her in person for that sake in the future, if we ever do in-person cooking class, you should not miss that opportunity. But in the meanwhile, there's her two books, and here is Deborah Samuels.
Hi, everybody. Yay. Thank you. That's a wonderful introduction. And today we are going to be doing the cream Anmitsu, which is one of Japan's premier desserts. It seems to have a little bit of everything in it. It's not a complicated dessert, but it has several steps. I'm going to be doing what takes the longest first. Before we do the program itself, I have a short PowerPoint about Japanese wagashi and a little bit about sweets in comparison to American sweets, donuts, and all those other wonderful things that we like to eat in massive amounts and quantities. So we'll do that first, and then we'll get started. Cream Anmitsu. This is actually, what is this, our 8th or 9th, 6th or 7th program? I can't, 3 and 4, 7th program, I think. And really excited that we've done all these really cool classes with the Japan Societies of Houston, Atlanta, and Boston. It's been a wonderful collaboration. As Yuko said, I'm part of the Wa-Shokuiku program, and we are back to teaching in person. We often teach in elementary schools, high schools, middle schools, boys and girls clubs, everywhere. And so our program includes, of course, Japanese cuisine, but also culture and nutrition. So we always have a little bit of Japanese, konnichiwa, for all of you. Good afternoon, Japanese. I'm sure you're all very well aware of these terms. What is the color and flavor of wagashi? We've got desserts in Japan and those that you find in the United States. Desserts in Japan are less sweet, served in smaller portions, and they often use traditional and nutritious ingredients in the desserts themselves, such as anko, which is made from the red azuki bean, one of the most nutritious beans, I think, on the planet. Not just making that up. I'm pretty sure that is a fact, and it's really one of the highest also in fiber. Matcha, green tea, is purported to have many medicinal qualities, and also as you're sort of ingesting the entire leaf when you're drinking the powder. But now you know there's matcha everything: matcha latte, matcha ice cream, matcha donuts. It's the craze. And part of the reason why they did that is because I think tea drinking was decreasing in Japan. And so they were looking for ways to support the farmers and to pump it up. And matcha, as it's been going on for a long time, but as an ingredient in okashi, in sweets, is been a long time used in Japan. And shiro-an, made from white lima beans, also high in protein, something that's used throughout sweets in Japan. So red beans daifuku, as we talked about, matcha everything, and shiro-an makes these beautiful nerikiri, beautiful wagashi sweets that are so indicative of Japanese pastries. The texture of wagashi is also something very different than American sweets. Mochi uses glutinous rice flour, which gives you that very kind of chewy feeling. And kanten is made from red seaweed. So you're having already minerals in there. And kanten is a gelatin-like substance that we're going to use today and to thicken sweets as well. So dango, mochi, and kanten jellies made with this red algae. Again, these are ingredients that have good nutrition involved in them. And mochi balls, we are going to be making those today. And this is our Anmitsu. There are shops just devoted to serving this dessert during the summertime. And it's quite wonderful. And as you can see, all these different elements, it makes for a variety. And you can see that there's not a lot of one thing, but there's a variety of things. How do you eat an apple in the United States? We usually just take one big, whole, unpeeled apple and have a bite. But in Japan, generally fruit is eaten in pieces and very often peeled. And as you can see, you can have just a regular wedge, or if you're a lucky kindergartner, you get a little apple bunny in your bento box. That's one of the delights of childhood and bento. But generally, fruits are not served whole. They can be very expensive. I'm sure many of you experienced $100 melons, but you don't sit there and eat the whole melon. It's often brought for dessert, for a gift, and you're eating small slices of them for your after the meal. Sent as gifts, square watermelon. Anybody see that? That is very popular. White strawberries. Fruits are sent as gifts, and they're very expensive. And cakes and those delicious fruit sundaes also. Some foods are naturally sweet, like sugar, sugars you find in fresh fruits. Dairy turns to sugar in your body. Sweet potatoes and all sorts of corns and things, they all turn to carbohydrates. So you have to be careful about the intake of these. So we talk about added sweets, added sugar, and natural sugar. And so that to help kids understand the difference of that. Right amount, that's what matters. It's not that you don't eat sweets, it's just that how much you eat. And if you go to Japan or anything, they have amazing cakes and things, but they're in very small portions. So you can eat them, and they do. So one of the things too, and one of the tricks that manufacturers do when they're telling you how many calories are in a slice, and you think you're getting something that's got less sugar in it, they just make the slice smaller. That's all. So you can cut a cake into 8 pieces or 6 pieces, or you can cut it into 8 or even more. And so you can still have the cake, but you can have your cake and eat it too. Enjoy it as well. And you can see the comparison in the amount of grams in sugar. Right timing for desserts. You eat dinner at 7. What is bad timing? Just before dinner and just after dinner. And so this is what we do. We talk to kids a little bit more about, when a good time to eat. And so avoiding snacks just before meals or bedtimes. And tips for having sweets, good ingredients, right amount, and the right timing. And then, by all means, have at it. Today, we're going to be cooking Anmitsu. This is our Japanese fruit parfait. It has azuki beans, rice dumplings, and fruit. Of course, there's some sugar and ice cream in it, but it works all together as a piece. So you'll see anko is red zuki beans, protein, fruits, vitamins, shiratama, protein and carbs, because we're using tofu in our mochi balls, and gelatin content, protein and or minerals because of the red algae. Okay, so this is a very delicious and healthy dessert. and we are going to get cooking. Just important if you have any food allergies or any concerns that you know exactly what's on the back of all these packages. Okay, we're going to be starting with the content. I have something that is in 4 grams right here. So it would be good for you to look at the package that you have. Is anybody not making the content? Because it's not necessary. We're doing the whole traditional shebang here, but if you don't have it, it's not a big deal. My package calls for about 600 cc's for about a cup and a half of water. So I'm going to follow the directions, and you should follow the directions on that. So what we're going to do is I've got my water already in here. Take your package of content, sprinkle it in like this. We're going to heat it up, bring it to a boil for it'll take about 2 minutes or so, and then we're going to simmer it for 2 minutes. So I'm getting that up to a boil and then turning it down and simmering it for 2 minutes. And you should have a place in your refrigerator all ready to go. While we're waiting for this to come to a boil, just scoot over to the brown sugar syrup, which goes all on the top. If you don't want to make the syrup, you can always use maple syrup for this, okay? But I will show you here. I think I have a half a cup of water and a quarter of a cup of brown sugar. So I'm just going to put it right in here. And I'm just going to mix this so it's all ready to go. I'm not heating it yet. I'm just trying to parallel process so that we're able to move along at that. I'm just waiting for my content to come up to a boil like that. And so that should be ready to go. This brown syrup in Japan, it's called kuromitsu. Is that right, Yuko-san?
Yes.
Kuromitsu,
Yes.
which is kind of like molasses. Almost, it's sort of a dark brown sugar. So, it's not easy to find here. So we make something that's approximate to it. And as I said, you can always use maple syrup for it. Generally, when you have content, you kind of need a syrup with it because content itself has an interesting consistency. And the pan that I'm using today, you can use an 8x8 square. But I have a long, narrow pan that I've found that works very well. It doesn't matter how high it is, it'll be high enough for making the square, the little cubes. Or you can use a Tupperware that's square or anything that's a rectangle or a square is just fine, whatever works for you. So this is also an assembly project too. You just want to be careful. So content needs to come to a boil in order for it to gel. So that's what we're waiting for here. For Knox gelatin, you generally pour boiling water into it, and that seems to be enough. But mine is just about ready. I didn't have it in the recipe, but I have had it in other recipes. You can add a teaspoon or tablespoon of sugar to this if you want. Not necessary, but if you do, you add it after it's come to a boil, not first, so that the sugar dissolves pretty well. So it doesn't have a whole lot of flavor to it. So here we're looking for a textural. Just about coming up to a boil there. Like this, and I can see it thickening. And then it'll be about 2 minutes for that. I'm considering this boiled, and I'm going to just lower it. And Yuko-san, can you time me for 2 minutes? Would you be able to do that? Okay.
Yes, I can do that. I am going to time you now.
All right. So I'm going down to about a 5, which is a simmer for me. And my brown sugar syrup is almost even, melting itself, and it'll be all ready to cook when we're ready. And what you might want to do is I have a pot of water here getting ready for the boil, because that's going to be for our mochi. I'm going to get that started and bring that up to a boil so it's ready when we're ready to do that. And you want to have a fairly deep pot to let the mochi balls cook in. it helps to keep them fluffy, and we don't put them all on one time, but it's always good to have a larger pot for doing that. Content is getting clearer, and I also already can feel it gelling.
Well, we're waiting. Can I share what I recently found out about content and agar?
Oh, please.
So I found out that they're both made out of seaweed, right? A kind of algae. But they're different kinds of algae, like they're same kind of algae, but they're actually like different. So in Japan, like I grew up hearing this too, but in Japan, they say when you use agar, it's a little bit softer than content.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
yes.
That's how some people usually, obviously, traditionally, it's always been, oh, that's the timer. It's okay. Content, but recently I hear people sometimes prefer agar to some dishes when they want it a little softer, but obviously harder than jelly.
Yes. Okay, so what we're going to do now, I'm just going to bring this around, and I'm just going to put it into the pan, put it right into the refrigerator. And I've been making sure, testing, and this is ready in about 25 minutes. For some reason, it sets up very, very quickly.
I was actually also looking for content. I think a lot of us are using the powder form today, but sometimes it also comes in a bar, like a bowl content, we call it. So
yes,
I thought I had some in the house, but unfortunately I don't, because I wanted to show you the bowl content, which looks a little bit different from the powder content, right?
Yes, it's a bar that you have to soak for 20 minutes.
Yes.
But then you just put it in the water and you cook it just as though you were cooking a gelatin. All right, onward to our next activity. So what we have now is 1.5 cups of mochiko. This is the one that is most found in supermarkets around here. Is Koda Farms out of California. It's sweet rice flour made from the mochigome, and that's what's used to make wagashi and the mochi for pounding and all that. But here we have it easy in flour form. Did everybody get their mochigome that way? So I have a cup in here, and I'm going to add another 1/2 cup. So it's 1.5 cups of rice flour, sweet rice flour. And what makes this really nice and soft is the tofu. And we're going to be using a soft or silken tofu, like that, silken tofu. And it's about 3/4 cup. We may or may not need more. And this is in lieu of water because there's so much liquid in tofu. And what we're going to be doing is making a dough. Here we're going to be adding a tablespoon of sugar. Make sure that you've got your pot of water on the stove and you're bringing it to a boil now, okay? The other thing that you want to have next to you is a bowl of cold water, and you can put some ice cubes in it if you like, and get that ready on the stove. And now what we're going to do is just add the tofu to the rice flour, and we're going to mix it with our hands. This is a totally messy, fun experience, but here we go. You may need more tofu. What we're looking for is something like Play-Doh. The Japanese have another way to describe it is that it should feel like your earlobe, the tip of your earlobe. How do you say that, Yuko-san, in Japanese?
Mimikabu, earlobes is mimikabu.
Mimikabu.
Mimikabu no yawarakasa.
Hi, okay. So I can see that mine is pretty dry, and I can see that I'm going to need to add more tofu. So I'm going to do that.
So Deb, the reason why you're not, very often when we use tofu in cooking, we get rid of the water, right?
Yes.
The reason why you're not doing this is because you're using this in lieu of water for the mochi.
Exactly. And so now I can see mine is starting to come together like pastry dough. Okay, everybody, look at this. It's starting to come together. All right, this is just what I want. So this is the Japanese dumpling. It can be made with water. So this is traditionally usually made with water. Mine is holding together now. How about you all? Almost like pizza dough, like that. You know, you're gonna get your finger to go in.
A little sort of other ways to use mochiko in our house. We make mochi cupcakes with it, so it gives a nice, really kind of mochi-ish texture to cupcakes. My daughter makes little mochis. She adds she makes all sorts of variations like coffee. She makes matcha mochi. She puts honey in them. So there's always, if you always have a mochiko in your pantry, I think it's actually versatile.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for saying that. You go, because I also make these mochiko cupcakes with all mochiko. I don't do half flour and half mochiko, and you get this great texture. Okay, so what we're going to be doing now with our dough is we're going to be taking off small pieces, kind of like a walnut size, not like a quarter, something like that, and rolling it into a ball. This may even be too big. Okay, err on the side of making it smaller. Okay, and you want to roll it like this, and then take your thumb and just like that, little dimple in the middle. Again, erring on the side of smaller is better. One of the things when we're teaching, we don't use mochi for kids under 5. This isn't the kind of mochi that can cause choking, but this tofu makes it much softer, but you really need to be careful with young kids and older people. You don't want anyone choking on this. So the smaller, the better here. I don't know how many people you're going to be feeding now. The dough that you made is actually a little bit larger than I had anticipated. Let's just make however many people there are, 4 or 5 per person. And we're probably going to put in 8 at a time. This is also something that you can put it on a stick with 3 balls. You've got dango, and you can mix soy sauce and sugar and have this wonderful topping. Also, kinako, Yuko-san, is also a good topping as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, my dad loved mitarashi dango, but I didn't like that soy sauce sugary thing. So my mom would always get the soy sauce sugary mitarashi dango, but she would always, get me the kinako version.
If you have dough left over like this, just cover it up with some saran wrap so it doesn't dry out right now. I think you can freeze mochi that has been already cooked. You researching that, Yuko-san?
Yes. I know you can freeze mochi, right? Like the regular mochi, because do that, but I'm trying to figure out if we can freeze mochiko mochi. I think I see Ikyo-san on the call, so maybe Ikyo-san can text us if she knows.
Okay, so my balls are ready, and I've got my bowl of water right next to it, and I'm going to get some ice cubes. Just like when I'm in Japan, when I'm here in Germany, ingredients are not always the same as what we expect to have in the States. So the brown sugar I have here is more like a turbinado sugar. It's very granular. So when I've made this sauce before, it gets a little sticky. So I'm just gonna take a few ice cubes, put it in a bowl of water.
Happy to report. It does say that it can be frozen, but after, at least the one that I'm reading says that after you boil them.
Great, that's what I thought.
And it says naturally defrost it when you eat it.
Don't put it in the microwave, right?
That's right, yes.
Okay, got it. The water is just about boiling. I could probably put in 10 of them, but I'm gonna just start with 8. And what we wanna do is, we're just like other dumplings, we're gonna wait till they come up to the top, and then we're gonna cook them for another minute, because you want the center cooked. 6, 7, 8. That's what I'm going to put in. 8. It would be great if you have a spoon that has some kind of holes in it so that it's easy for you to pick up. I'm going to keep it boiling, but like not a crazy boil. We're waiting for them to float. One's up. Can you see it floating? They cook for another minute, and I'm going to take one out and I'm going to cut into it and test it. You lower the heat a little bit. Let them swirl around. Mine are all at the top now. All right, I think we're just about ready to take this group out, and we're going to put it into before I do that, let me just cut into it just to make sure the center is done. Oh yeah, I can feel it. It's nice and soft. Right into the ice water, and then bring the pot of water back to a boil and put in the rest of your mochi. All right. And then after this, it kind of moves very quickly because we're cutting up our fruit, getting ready to assemble it. Anybody has a second burner and they would like to do this and think they can pay attention to their syrup, you can put that on. I'm always afraid with this that I'm going to burn it if I don't pay attention, but we've got so much going on. Usually the second batch, the water is already pretty hot and bubbling. It usually floats a little bit sooner. And now they are furiously boiling and coming up to the top. My second batch of balls is done. So I'm going to take that out, put them in ice water, pay attention to the syrup. Okay. I have my syrup here. We have the brown sugar and water. All right, and I'm just going to watch it. It comes to a boil pretty quickly, and you just want to make sure that the sugar is dissolved. While I'm waiting for that to come up to boil, I'm going to get my fruits together. The fruits that I've chosen today are strawberries, kiwi, I have an orange here and a banana. I also have a golden kiwi here, which is good. And it is cherry season in Berlin. So I'm going to put a cherry on top of my anmitsu. I see the sauce is beginning to boil. Yuko, do you always use like a syrup for the top?
Yes, we
Yes.
have a sweet tooth, so absolutely yes. But to show you a little bit of how creative my daughter can be, when she doesn't have brown sugar, she actually just uses regular sugar.
White sugar.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And she calls it shiromitsu rather than to call
That's
it.
very funny. That's very good.
Yeah.
Okay. So mine is beginning to boil now, and I've got this nice color here. Just going to give it another minute or two, and it will naturally thicken up on its own, and it doesn't have to be too thick. You're just adding it around the top. And I'm going to turn it off now and just leave it. Okay, so this is what it looks like now.
And a little Japan trivia while we're at this. So in Japan, the Okinawa region is famous for kurosato, brown sugar, obviously because they have sugarcane production down in Okinawa. So according to my friend from Okinawa, she tells me that kurosato from Okinawa is better than any other kurosato. Although I do not have scientific proof of that, but my friend from Okinawa, so you never know.
Your kiwi are in half moons. I remove the skin like this. I would say there are a few fruits that are not good for this, which would be an apple, because the texture is so hard, and you're trying, as you can see, these textures are rather similar in terms of eating.
Probably the content is the hardest, right, in this particular dish?
Yes, yes. Thank you for reminding me that it's sitting in the refrigerator waiting for us. So, you know, with anything, just the preparation and getting it all ready to get on the tray here. You can use mandarin oranges in a can if you want. And very often when I do that, I use the juice to make the content. because it gives it a little bit of flavor. But if you have an orange and you want to section it, I always peel back the skin so the pith is taken out, and then I section it like this, right between the membranes, you can see, and just pull it out. So you don't have that thick part in there. And then for the strawberries, if you have giant ones, you really want to cut them in quarters, but I'm just going to take out the hull right here. And I'm just going to cut this in half. Okay. Patsy, what kind of fruit are you using?
Strawberry, kiwis, and I'm cheating and doing mandarin oranges.
Yes, yes, absolutely. It's not cheating. That's what they do in Japan. And the other thing, if you don't have any fresh fruit in the house, we always also want people to feel that they can do this and not feel that buying fresh fruits and things are out of reach. A can of fruit cocktail also is very good too. So I've got these cut up. As we all know, Meiji taberu, you eat with your eyes in Japan, and so it's all in the presentation. I've got my banana, which is, somehow or other a traditional topping there. You see that? I'll take it off here. I like to cut it on a diagonal, all right, like that.
I just said that to my kids this afternoon, Deb, about mede taberu.
Right.
They were eating lunch, and we weren't eating lunch as a family. They were eating lunch on their own, and they were like, using their phone while they were eating. You cannot use your phone while you're eating because mede tabemasu, it's not just your mouth. Mede tabemasu. Use all your senses is what I say.
Exactly. Okay, so here I've got, just going to slice this, on a diagonal. And it also fits in the bowl nicer if you slice it on a diagonal. It kind of stands up a little bit. And you're usually thinking about 3 to 4 pieces of the fruit in each bowl. So my fruit plate is just about done. Okay, like that. And I am going to add poki for a little crunch to it. And if not, I know I put in the instructions like a wafer-like cookie. So you don't want a chocolate chip cookie in there. You want something kind of light and just for a little additional, look and crunch. So I either use poki or one of these little cookies. All right, quadratinis, whatever. And of course, we need our azuki beans. Now, go to the refrigerator and get your content. You can either use like a shallow bowl like this, or you can use a pretty glass-footed dish so that you can see all the fruit. You don't want a deep bowl for this, okay? You really want a shallow bowl. Boom, 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 boom. It's hard. How's everybody else's? So now what we're going to do with this is we're going to cut it into small little squares.
The great thing about content is that it doesn't, it doesn't melt over time, right? So you can put it out.
No.
That's kind of nice when we're having parties and, it's out there.
Yes.
Kind of melt.
And, you don't have to do this whole big thing to use the content. You can, what else would you use it in?
Actually, interestingly enough, content in Japan is also known as diet food. So
they
use it like French food, that gelatin, that I don't know what's it called, the
aspic.
Some people use it like that. Actually, as a matter of fact, we have content in the fridge right now. My husband made coffee content.
Nice.
Coffee jelly, jelly.
Coffee jelly,
yeah. Which is nice in the summertime too. Just add a little sugar on top, and
that's good.
Yeah, and
so you
also say that it's because it can be filling, but it still has minerals, right? It has nutritious value. So in Japan, they also say that if you have to be on a diet, like it's good to start the meal with a content because it fills you up a little bit.
I did not know that. Okay. So we're going to be cutting this in little 1 inch, about 1 inch squares like that. So I'm going just to go way down. These, I think, go down first into the bottom of your dish. So here's what the cube looks like, just like that, okay? And I'm gonna try 2 different things. So I'm gonna put a layer of content on the bottom.
My mom used to tell me that there are a lot of dishes in the summertime that we eat, obviously for the mede taberu reasons, and content is one of it, right? Because it's kind of, it's like water. It's kind of, transparent, and it's water.
Yes.
Also, there's a completely different dish, which is not necessarily sweet. It's more like savory, called tokoroten.
Tokoroten, yes.
Same idea, right? Of mid,
yes.
You eat a lot of things in the summertime that kind of gives you the cool,
Yes.
And I think
exactly
is definitely one of those food.
Exactly. So you don't want to put too much in. You just want to, put a layer on the bottom, and then you're going to add your fruits. And you're going to group them. It's not like a fruit salad where it's all mixed up. Japanese tend not to, that doesn't tend to be the aesthetic. But you're going to just kind of keep them in groups. The strawberries with the strawberries, kiwis with the kiwi. Just design it in a way that works for you. If you have all of these fruits prepared, it's fun for kids, to do this. And it's just beautiful to look at. What is not beautiful with Japanese food? So you want to put some of the mochi in like that, just tuck it around. Oh, is that cool? Nice. I would say, well, for me, 3 would be enough. In Japanese things, it's sort of an embryo. It's a little bit of restraint for this, just so it looks beautiful. There's plenty to look at, but that it's not overly stuffed. This is a good thing to do if you're serving ice cream, is to get it into the shape you want before you actually have to go in and dig it out and then just keep it in the freezer like that. It's very helpful. Right on the top. And so now I can tell, what else I want to show. So I'm probably going to add another strawberry. Shows up here. I'm going to pull up my orange so you can see that. You really want to see everything. That's looking pretty beautiful. And then azuki beans, set them on the side. Yes. Not a lot, just enough. I'm going to drizzle on the syrup. So just a little bit. You want it to go down into the base so that you get it onto the content. So you want to just try to do that. You can either use your cookie, and a thick cookie like this, I might cut down a little bit like that. A cookie, yay! And that is your cream anmitsu. Anmitsu is without the ice cream, and cream anmitsu is with the ice cream. It's not hard, but there are multiple steps. The one, you cannot make the mochi in advance in the morning and do that. You need to make the mochi when you're going to use it. You can cut the fruits, you can get that together, you can get the content going, the syrup, everything. The mochi is generally done in the end so that it's nice and fresh and chewy for you.
Eating cream anmitsu and doing a Tanzaku activity, I think sounds like a summer activity.
We did want to take today to celebrate Tanabata with you. Has anyone heard of Tanabata before? Do we have anyone we have some people shaking their head yes, some people shaking their head no. For those who haven't, let me give you a brief summary of what the holiday is. So it is a holiday in Japan that's celebrated on the 7th day of the 7th month of the lunar calendar, which means some cities in Japan celebrate the holiday on July 7th. Others celebrate the holiday on August 7th. Yuko-san, what holiday, your area of Japan, when do you celebrate Tanabata?
July 7th.
July 7th.
Tanabata.
We have Katayama-san from the JASH office, the Japan American Society of Houston office, on the call with us today, and she's tuning in from Kagoshima. And in Kagoshima, they celebrate Tanabata in August, right?
Yes.
So she woke up very early today to be with us.
What time now? Like 6 a.m., 7 a.m., right?
Yes. Yes. 7:30. So Kagoshima celebrates August 7th.
So it's essentially the day is a day that marks the coming together of Princess Orihime, the Princess Weaver, and Prince Hikoboshi, the cowherder. The two were assigned to be married, and they were both very diligent in their work beforehand. And once they got married, they fell so in love, they stopped doing their work. And this angered the king so much, he sentenced them to be separated and only allowed to meet one day a year. And that one day is on Tanabata Day. So that is why on this day we celebrate. It's a very auspicious day. People come together. You hear of a lot of engagements taking place on this day. There are weddings that take place on this day. And that's because it's a day that wishes are said to come true. So we wanted to take this time to be with you to actually send our wishes up into the universe as well. So if you had the chance to print this out, all you need to do is cut it out and write your very own wish on it. So mine is in relation to Anmitsu. I have been watching Kantoro, the Sweet Tooth Salaryman. In the very first episode of the show, he goes to Ningyocho in Tokyo and eats Anmitsu at a restaurant or a specialty shop called Hatsune. So my wish is to be able to visit Japan again and actually make it to Hatsune the next time I'm there. So that's my wish. So it can be small and practical or big and fantastical. Today we did an event at the Children's Museum and we had children writing on their Tanzaku. I wish for a unicorn. I wish to get into a good college, whatever it might be. Take time to write your own wish, put a little string on it, hang it somewhere where it reaches up to the sky, and so you can send your own wish into the universe.
And Patsy, it's hung, is it from any kind of branch or what kind of
That's
tree,
a
a willow?
point. It's typically hung from a bamboo branch, and that's because the bamboo does reach up high into the sky, so therefore your wishes are closer to the gods and to the heavens. Yuko-san wrote hers in Japanese, and as you can see, it's written vertically.
I said, hopefully we'll find more societies that will join us for Ouchigohan in the future.
Hear, hear.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a good summer, good and safe summer.
Thank you so much for joining us. What is more wonderful than friends from all over the United States getting together and cooking Japanese food together? So look forward, please, to more of our Ouchigohan series in the fall. And always, always, I am proud to say I love Patsy's programs. I love Yoshi's program. I love my own program. I think we try hard. We all try hard. So check us out on our web pages. You know, I'm sure we all will come up in a Google search. If you say Japan Society Houston or Japan Society Georgia or Japan Society Boston, you'll find us. So hope you'll join us. And as Deb mentioned, have a great summer. And one last thank you to Deb for joining us. I know it's in Berlin.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All your wishes come true.
Oh,
yes.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. So thank you for joining us in Kagoshima.
Bye. Bye, Arthur.
Bye.